Welcome to a new edition of the Neon Jazz interview series with the Director of Jazz Studies at Ball State University, Mark Buselli. Under his direction, Ball State University Jazz in Muncie, Indiana, has released their first album ever. The 2022 album, I Can See the Other Side, and it happens to be the 2022 album, I Can See the Other Side. This group is the flagship of the Ball State Jazz program and enjoys a reputation of being one of the best collegiate bands in the country. And personally, over the years, Mark has performed with the likes of Bobby McFerrin, Slide Hampton, Jimmy Heath, Slam Stewart, Natalie Cole, the Four Tops, the Temptations, Ben Vereen, and it goes on and on. He has also played for former presidents Jimmy Carter, George H. Bush, Bill Clinton, and George W. Bush. He's got a great, rich story. Enjoy.
Thanks for taking a minute out for Neon Jazz. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate it too.
My pleasure, man. And I always love projects like this. I mean, when it comes to really cultivating the youth and keeping the fires of jazz alive for the future, this is where it all happens.
Yeah.
So talk to me a little bit about the Ball State University Jazz I Can See the Other Side CD that's come out. Give me an idea of, how many times has this happened, the significance of this, especially with COVID going on right now.
Well, okay, the Ball State, this is our very first one ever. Ever. I finally have the band and the musicians, not that I didn't have in the past, but I never had the resources to do it. We finally have a new recording studio built here that I could take advantage of. The very first time we recorded it, actually a year ago, in the height of COVID, six feet apart in the recording studio with all the protocols observed. And it was quite a challenge, I'll tell you that. I think one of the positive things out of COVID for any music department is that students were forced to sit 6 feet apart from each other and perhaps learn to listen a little bit better. We finally, and today it's really strange that you call today, because today is our official February 25th release date.
Oh, beautiful, man.
Yeah, and I appreciate it. It's our official release date, and it's released today, and then we have it on digital coming out next week.
Right on. So talk to me a little bit about, you kind of mentioned COVID, but, we've gone through the ringer over the last 2 years, and I think, is there an extra level of significance to this coming out right now where it might be a little bit easier to promote this, might be a little bit easier to get people to see you live?
I think there are a couple different layers of significance. One, which you mentioned, people are hungry for live performances again. People are actually going out and seeing live music again. It's kind of exciting. But the next layer for me is I've been developing these arranging composition classes here at Ball State for the last, 8 years. And it's finally come to fruition where now every tune was arranged or written by a student, except for one, which was written by a faculty member. So we have 5 original student composition arrangements on there. And, they've gone through 396 revisions, but if they've gotten to the point where they're all good, they're all recorded, and I'm really proud of our students for stepping up and coming to the plate.
So let's talk about the program. Talk to me a little bit about, before we get into your beginnings, but let's kind of stay hyper-specific to right now. How did you get to Ball State? How did you get things rolling? And how did you get to a point where, in the history of this organization, you got the first CD on the books?
So here it goes. So I was teaching at Butler University. I actually started the jazz program at Butler University in Indianapolis. Year 2007 comes along. I'm still being dangled as Director of Jazz Studies adjunct. So I started taking, interviews. I happened to land this gig. I took it because it's a real nice gig. The former person who was here before, Larry McWilliams, had started a beautiful jazz festival in 1973 that had grown. It had 3 big bands and 7 combos, and Larry only had one other faculty member working with him. He didn't have a degree per se. It was just a couple classes. Maybe he had a minor or a concentration in jazz studies. I got here in 2007, didn't want to step on too many. You never want to step on too many feet your first couple of years. You want to get the lay of the land. And then I figured this is my chance. It's time to build something. So I started going for a degree, but in the meantime, I started these online jazz history classes that just took off. It brought us in a lot of money. I had 7 different sections of them from the whole university. I got them to count as a Tier 1 course where all the people in the university had to take it. And that led to me being able to hire a full jazz faculty, full-time on their instruments. And we have a full-time trombone, and, bass, drums, guitar, piano, which helps so much when it comes to recruiting. That we started getting some players. And so it's been building ever since. And I would say that this is the fruition. We had Lincoln Center Jazz at Lincoln Center come out in 2018, and Winton actually did a clinic with my band. The next thing I know, I'm talking to Todd Stoll, and he's invited us to Dizzy's. We're all set to go to Dizzy's in 2020, and bam, everything shuts down. Pleaded with American Airlines to keep our tickets until they gave us till March of 2022, and they gave us March 21st, and I called Dizzy's, and we got in March 14th, so we were able to utilize all that. We're heading in a up direction right now with everything coming out.
Hallelujah, man. That's so triumphant, especially from my end of things. I've been, covering this. I mean, I've been on the air since 2011, but more hyper specifically, I've been covering COVID, and to hear that things are coming back, it's like, wow, it's what a journey it's been. So that's a great story. But as the leader of this outfit, talk to me a little bit about how the jaws of jazz got into your blood and how it's kind of carried on throughout the years for you.
I'm going to be 64 this year, and the word retire has not even crossed my mind. I absolutely love what I do. I love turning students on to this music. I was bitten, maybe not as a young age, but maybe in high school. And I had a band director in high school who really turned me on to all the great stuff. I remember when I first heard Count Basie and went off my chair. It felt so simple, but yet it swung so much. And then Ellington, I was introduced to Ellington. I went to Berklee School of Music way back in 79 through 82 and made a lot of friends, got turned on to music. And just, I tried different things, Joe. I tried being a computer programmer. The computer part came real easy to me because, musicians are pretty smart people. And I just couldn't see doing it the rest of my life. I was at Arizona State University studying computer programming. I got into the program after Berklee. And so I got out of that. I came back to music. I've never really turned around after that. Once you make the decision to do it, it's like a 500-pound thing is lifted off your shoulders. You understand, I drive a 2012 Camry. It's got 200,000 miles on it, and I love it because I can buy all new instruments.
That's interesting. I just got a 2013 Camry, and I love it. I love it.
As long as you're not fixated on having materialistic things, except for new instruments, then a career as a musician is pretty exciting. You never know when the phone's going to ring and what it's going to be.
Yeah. Loving jazz and grooming the youth to perform it. What was the first live jazz show that you actually saw in person that blew you away?
Let's see. It would have to have been in high school, and as a trumpet player, I saw Maynard Ferguson. He had Lynn Nicholson with him. And, Lynn Nicholson, to me, at that time, of course, I don't play like that, but hearing the high trumpets was pretty exciting as a high school kid. Later, I got turned on to Clark Terry, and that was it for me. I had heard God, and then I heard, the usual Dizzy, Chet Baker, Miles, all those trumpet players. And I borrowed a little bit from each one of them, but whenever I get depressed or whenever something, I always put some Clark Terry on, and I'm always smiling.
Beautiful, man. I remember before the pandemic, I used to ask, especially folks that were working in the college realm, like, they have a beat on the youth and what's going on with jazz. And I'd ask, how strong is jazz? And I don't ever have to ask that again since the pandemic. The amount of shows that were canceled, the amount of musicians that told me the gigs, I know how strong it is. But I guess I want to ask a little bit more pointedly to you, watching these students for as long as you have, how bright is the jazz craft now? When you see the future, 10, 20, 30 years down the line, and you see all these dreamers in your class, how strong is it?
Well, who am I to ever say that I'm going to squash somebody's dream? I'm making music. The one thing I tell all my students is you have to wear a lot of hats. You got to be able to play, first of all. You got to be able to teach. Teaching is, I never wanted to teach until I was 30. You get a little studio, you have to be able to write. You must be able to write and arrange. You must be able to run a business. You got to be able to, have your own vision of a musical product. Because I quickly realized when I got to the place I'm in now that, man, there's a lot of trumpet players who are better than me. I'm not going to get called for anything. So that's when we put together I have a jazz orchestra called the Buselli Wall-Rap Jazz Orchestra. We've been around for 25 years now. And from that, different projects have sprung up. But it's all about the vision. And I tell students, as long as you have a vision of something and know how to get it out there, you will always attract people to play. You may not be playing jazz for a living, but at least you're going to be able to play, and you might have to work a different job. My God, man, I was a nighttime security guard. I was a pizza delivery guy. I was a church bulletin delivery guy. I was a bellman. I was a doorman at a hotel. I did everything to support my habit, as you call it, And I tell students, if you're prepared to work and don't mind working stupid jobs to get by until you find something, then go for it. I said, I'm 64 now, man. I can remember when I was 20. It seemed like yesterday. My God, the last thing I want to be doing is stuck in a job that I hate the rest of my life, just waiting to retire and then go die somewhere.
Now thinking about being 20 and you're 64, let's say you have a dream tonight and you run into your younger self, say around 20-ish, when you were really, or around the time you decided that music was going to be something you wanted to pursue full time. And you could give your younger self one piece of advice based on the wisdom that you've gotten over all of these years. What would be that one piece of advice you would tell your younger version?
I'd say spend more time honing your craft. Spend more time learning, listening to the people who have stuff to tell you. Spend more time learning how to write and arrange music. Spend more time listening to all the music you can get a hold of. And spend more time learning about who you are and not who somebody wants you to be. Find out who you are. That's the hard part.
So why do you love jazz?
Oh, man. Why? Because I love getting on a stage not knowing what's going to happen. At first, when you start out, it's petrifying. And then all of a sudden, I get this feeling after I play with people that this is beautiful. This is what I want to do in my life. It's creative. It's not some kind of formula. It's not some kind of hook that you get people, singing on the radio to. Yeah, you're right. There's not a lot of people. What's 3% of the market? Maybe? I don't know. That's why I love it. I love it because of its improvisatory nature.
As we return, you get to go to Dizzy's and hopefully more live audiences will start coming in. The weather's going to get warmer. what do you hope we all realize? We've been away from, live music largely for 2 years now. I mean, it's undulated with these variants, but overall it's been very, meager. What do you hope we all realize, both musician, student, and the audience, once we return to live music in earnest? What do you hope we realize about the power of it?
I hope we realize probably what people a long time ago realized, that get out of the house, get away from the TV, go here, go be a part of something, go dance, go out. Don't be a prisoner to Facebook. Don't be a prisoner to video games. Just get out, go meet people, socialize. That's what we are. We're social individuals. We need that interaction. So I'm not necessarily talking about just jazz. As human beings, we need to go out and be with each other. I mean, one of my favorite Twilight Zone episodes is when the guy goes down in the bank vault and the nuclear war starts and he doesn't know, and he goes out and there's no one around. And he loved to read books. And he's got this whole life to read books. He's got all these books, and all of a sudden his glasses break. He can't read anymore, and he realizes he's alone, completely alone. We shouldn't be alone. That's what I hope people realize.
Man, I remember that episode. I love the Twilight Zone. I totally remember that episode.
Me too.
My God. And what Rod Serling was putting out at that time in our history is so chilling right now, because there's so many themes that he was putting out there that are so dystopian and modern with what we're living through. Like how he saw that through his looking glass is beyond any, beyond prediction. So
Exactly. And Rod Serling is from my hometown.
Oh, wow, really?
Binghamton, New York.
The thing that I wonder about Rod sometimes, what executive said, let's do this? I mean, think about it at that time, what he was putting out there. Like, that had to be one of the most far-out things ever. And they're like, yeah, let's give it a shot.
Exactly.
Oh, my God. But thank God it happened.
Yeah.
So everything's going to boil down to this, Mark. I want to know, everyone has their perception or an idea of who they think you are, your family, your friends, your students, your fans, but ultimately you live your life. You have a perception of who you are. Who do you think you are?
I think I'm just a person who at 64 is still learning how to play better, still learning how to write better, still learning how to be a better human being. And I kind of go through life that the glass is half full. I don't know why. At a young age, my father died of a heart attack. I was 9, raised by my mom. That's kind of how I started playing the instrument. Because I'd go downstairs, and when you play a long tone on the trumpet, you can't hear anything else. And so you kind of put everything away. You don't hear anything upstairs. You don't hear the sorrow. I don't know. Who do I think I am? I think I'm just a person who loves this particular thing that I'm doing and just wants to keep doing it.
I love it, man. Mark, that's a great answer, great way to wrap it up. Thank you for taking some time out. Good luck. It's so great to hear that, after 2 years, you guys get to go up there and perform. So have a great trip.
Man, thanks a lot, Joe. I appreciate it.
Thanks for listening and tuning in to another Neon Jazz interview, where we give you a bit of insight into the finest players and minds in Indiana, Kansas City, and spots all over the world, giving fans all that jazz. And thanks to Mark for his time, energy, and cool. If you want to hear more interviews, go to Famous Interviews with Joe Domino in the iTunes Store. Visit neonjazz at youtube.com, and for everything Neon Jazz all the time, go to the neonjazz.blogspot.com. Until next time, enjoy the jazz, my friends.
Neon Jazz.